Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Muhurmu Namastri Etirajaya Vivekananda Sure Satchisuka Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharini. Most revered Gautamanaji Maharaj and other venerable monks in the dais, my pranams to all of them. The venerable monks in the audience, once again offer my pranams to them, and the assembled devotees, my greetings and regards to them. It's truly a wonderful occasion. I was quite surprised when Moksha included my name as one of the speakers, because now after puja it's almost 3 o'clock when I reached my room. Swami Gokulanji was telling me he's a young monk. He met me some 45-50 years ago for the first time, so still he retains that old memory. Anyway, it's good someone feels that way about you. No specific topic has been announced for the public meeting today. So just as I was sitting, I was thinking what should be the topic of mine. Each movement, each avatara, when it is ushered in or when they come in, they bring a message of freshness. According to the Gita, again and again, God comes down on earth for redemption of mankind, to re-establish the dharma once again. Obviously, there are, apart from the fact that mankind is overtaken by a sense of forgetfulness, vismriti, that is what gives occasion to the coming down of the avatars again and again. Of course, we are too close to this extraordinary movement called the Ramakrishna movement. So we have hardly got a grasp of what it really stands for. Still, great scholars and many others are delving deep into the philosophy of Ramakrishna, try to understand, because even now, what's the basic philosophy of Sri Ramakrishna? That itself is a matter of great discussion. Because Mother clearly said that he was a Dvaitin. Swamiji also felt that way. But if you, very recently a a research book has come out on Sri Ramakrishna's Vijnanavada. So where it's projected as if that at least beyond Advaita he came back again to the state of Advaita. So it's all very highly technical, let us not go into it. But one particular aspect was really attractive to me. I felt that, in this Sri Ramakrishna movement, perhaps he has addressed one of the most pressing problems before mankind. Today, perhaps from time immemorial, 99% of the mankind is gripped with fear about death or the exit from the world. The Ramakrishna tradition, if you closely observe, read the gospel and try to understand, at least in a small way, the great master's message, probably he seems to have addressed this issue very beautifully. The very famous Yaksha-prajna Prashna of Mahabharata, where Yudhishthira was asked what's the greatest wonder in this world, and he said that people see others dying before them every moment, but yet they feel that they are going to live for eternity. But in this context, if you see, virtually the origin of the Ramakrishna movement, if you put it in some way, of course, his disciples coming, the future monastics and so on, they're all there. But then, Sri Ramakrishna was really introduced to public through this extraordinary text, scripture called the Gospel of Ramakrishna. The Gospel of Ramakrishna is rooted in someone solving the problem of death. Master Moshe was so bothered by what was happening around him. He was so disillusioned with life, he had decided to put an end to his life, and that's why he went to his nephew's place in Baranagur along with his wife. Of course, he had not informed her. He had decided to commit suicide. Then somehow his nephew took him to a few places of interest on a particular day. At the fag end of the day, he asked him, shall we go and see a Paramahamsa who is living nearby? Because normally, at the end of the day, particularly someone who has come to the end of the world virtually, would have said that enough of all that, I have seen more Paramahamsas, let us go back. But destiny took him and he went there and he did not go anywhere, straight came to the room where Sri Ramakrishna was living. Standing outside, he saw the master singing and dancing with a small group of people. The Dakshineshwar's room can hardly accommodate about 50-20 people at most. But then he felt that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was singing kirtans in the company of devotees. And then the next idea that came to his mind is Sukadeva was expounding the Bhagavata. There is a great similarity. You all know the occasion when Sukadeva expounded the Bhagavata for the first time. Parikshit Raja had committed an offense. He had offended a rishi who was in tapasya by putting as a garland a dead snake around his neck. So when the Rishi Kumara came, he saw his father being dishonored that way. He got so wild, he cursed the man who did it would die of snake bite within 7 days. The Rishi, when he opened his eyes, he found out what his son had done, because he was a Trikala Jnani who could see who had done that insult. So he said, what have we done? It is the Raja of this place, is such a benevolent king. You go and tell him at least what's going to happen to him. He went there and told Parikshit, and Parikshit, that's how. You see, again, here also lies the clue. He knew when he heard the curse of the Rishi Kumara that he was to die in 7 days, he did not feel upset. He really understood that I have been whiling away my time. Although it was time for me to hand over the reins to my son, and it has come about in a wonderful way, now I have been given 7 days time. So let me go to the banks of Ganges where he stayed. He had called all the rishis and munis at the place to ask them, what am I to do? I have just 7 days to live. What's the way forward for me? When they didn't know what to say at that time, the great Sukadeva came and he expounded the Bhagavata to him. And in 7 days, because he saw, here is a fit recipient, so full of that kind of a state of mind, because Bhagavad Saptahas are held in so many places. Kerala is very famous for Bhagavad Saptahas. This is the real intent of Bhagavad Saptah. 7 days he heard, he was so paripakwa in his mind, in his mental attitude, that he completely crossed over the fear of death. He was welcoming it. He knew that I am going to die. By the time he had solved the riddle of death, of course he was bitten by a snake in a very strange way. It appeared as a small, worm, and then slowly it became big and it was a huge serpent. It bit him and he died. But then absolutely death meant nothing to him because he had lived such a wonderful life in even those 7 days. So, when Master Moshe saw this, he was reminded, probably at that very moment, he conquered death. He gave up the idea of putting an end to his life and then turned a new leaf. And it was a long drawn battle. He had to go through a very tough tutelage. He was being, admonished at every turn for every offense, every dereliction and so on. But then slowly he found the way. Again and again, that is why, Sri Ramakrishna completely gave a new meaning to his life. He said actually, even if you think most of the people who are worried about death, we also hear stories of, people going to the brink of death and coming back and revealing those, experiences and so on. But perhaps what is relevant is how do we live our life here? When that becomes extremely meaningful and important, perhaps you don't have to worry about what's going to happen afterwards. Because you have lived such a full life, you know that then the Shastras and other great texts clearly tell you what lies in store for you. How do you change your station from one to another? Vasangshi Jinani Yata Vihaya, etc. etc. It's given in the Gita and other scriptures. So we really know that what it is to live in complete fullness on this earth. That's what Sri Ramakrishna taught Master Masha again and again by telling him that, through the repeated experiences which Sri Ramakrishna showed to Master Masha, they repeated the extraordinary states of ecstasy and transcendence, and again going into Samadhi. So Master Masha was completely transformed because he was told that you have to worry about your life now. You have to realize God, you have to realize the ultimate goal of life in this very birth. And that's what is really important, not what's going to happen afterwards. So, Master Masha would ask him again and again, can householders realize God? Is it possible for them to reach the ultimate goal of life? At every moment, Sri Ramakrishna would assure them saying that, yes, it's possible, and he would give him the prescriptions. In fact, Master Masha was going through a very, very difficult time. His mind was in great turmoil. Because in the presence of Sri Ramakrishna, he would feel so exalted, so transformed. Such states of ecstasy he himself would experience. But then going back to his house, the same feeling, the same trouble, same disturbance, because he had a very difficult family life. His wife and mother, they were at complete disagreement on every matter. And his wife also was threatening to commit suicide every now and then. So one day, he asked Sri Ramakrishna, what would one do if one's family is totally non-cooperative or is against the idea of intense or serious religious or spiritual life? Immediately Sri Ramakrishna gave a very strong answer. He said, give up such a family. Master Masha was stunned because he knew that he was the only breadwinner of the family, and if he used to come away, the others would die of starvation. There was no other provision for any other member of the family. And what is to do under such a circumstance? He was sitting stunned. But then immediately, after that initial shock, Sri Ramakrishna came near him and told him in his ears, as if specifically meant for him, if any person is really serious, intensely, that kind of a feeling for a spiritual life, everything would come in his favor. Even a very wicked king, the family, anything else, even the opponents, the enemies, everyone would turn in his favor if someone has such an intense feeling for God. And Master Masha was completely assuaged. So it took a long time, it's a long story, we don't have much to dwell into that. But then again and again, through such assurances, because the same question Master Masha would ask several times, and Sri Ramakrishna has given some wonderful prescriptions as to lead such a life where living here would become extremely meaningful, and that is how one could conquer the great idea of even death. There is one specific instance with that small incident from Sri Ramakrishna's life. I would close my talk because I think many others are waiting. See, once, a devotee by name Manilal came to Sri Ramakrishna. He had lost his son. He had been to the cremation ground for the cremation of his 21-year-old son. And straight from the burial ground, he came to Dakshineshwar, and he was sitting extremely overcome by sorrow, dazed. There were others. Sri Ramakrishna was, as usual, in his mood. He was talking about spiritual ideas. He was in an exalted mood. And then, people around were trying to console him in some way or other. But nobody could make any dent on this person. He knew that these words were not really penetrating his heart at all. And they were also wondering that Sri Ramakrishna is not even noticing this person. He is busy in his own talks of spiritual exaltations and such ideas. Then suddenly Sri Ramakrishna's eyes fell upon him. He said, "Why are you sitting like this in such a remorse condition, so full of sorrow? What exactly has happened?" Then he said, "Just now I am coming from the cremation ground. I have cremated my son who was 21 years old." And he couldn't speak further. Sri Ramakrishna just came near him, sat near him, and started talking about something else. He said, my own nephew Akshay, he had come to Dakshineswar to do puja. He was very promising. Sri Ramakrishna had great liking for this boy, so much affection for him because of his spiritual tendencies. They forcefully gave him marriage, although Sri Ramakrishna advised them not to do so. And then this boy suddenly fell ill. They were trying to, take him to some doctor. Others, Sri Ramakrishna simply made a remark. What are they doing him taking to Kaviraji and others? He would die. Hridaya became so upset. Mama, why did you say this? Whatever comes out of your mouth it becomes true. He said, I did not say this. Mother made me say. That was all he said. And literally, this youngster died after a few days. Sri Ramakrishna was in that very spot. He was simply dancing in ecstasy. He himself said, I was in such an extraordinary mood. I felt as if a sword has been drawn from its cupboard. It has been taken out. Meaning thereby, the flight of soul to freedom. Sri Ramakrishna was so much, enamored, so much he was attracted to this idea of freedom. He knew this was exactly the flight to freedom, and there is nothing to grieve about. So when he saw in reality the core of what was really happening, he was in a truly exalted mood, and he was in ecstasy, he was virtually dancing, when everyone other around were weeping, and they were not even able to understand what Sri Ramakrishna was doing. But then Sri Ramakrishna tells Manilal, the very next day, the afternoon, when I suddenly remembered Akshay, you cannot imagine the pain I felt. I felt someone was squeezing my heart like a wet towel. He said, if I, who can't even keep his clothes on his body, if I can feel that way, I understand how a householder like you, how you would feel. I can really understand your feeling. After all, he's from you have given birth to him. So I can understand your feeling. By the time, Manilal was slowly coming around. Then Sri Ramakrishna started a wonderful song. His song is a very famous song in Bengali. Jeev Saj Samare Rana Veshe Kal Veshe Praveshe Tor Ghare. Oh Jiva, get ready for the battle. Yama is trying to enter your house. Prepare for the battle with that kind of battle clothes. When he sang that song in such an exalted mood, Manilal's grief was totally assuaged. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, you see, these ordinary people, they keep grieving like that. But those who have turned to spiritual life, they have a different attitude towards such happenings in life. They don't sit back like that. They try to look for the real meaning of life, and they take the support of God and other such ideas, and then they go ahead. So, Manilal was completely consoled, and he said, I know nobody can wipe out this sorrow. That is why I came from the burial ground straight to you. So here was an instant where Sri Ramakrishna completely took away someone's sorrow of one of the greatest happenings, events of death in his life, namely the death of his 21-year-old son. So Sri Ramakrishna is a multifaceted genius. If you dwell into Kathamrita, every kind of situation is addressed. Each and every one of us, according to our own station of life, whatever we need in life, you look to it, perhaps Kathamrita gives you the answer. When Francis Assisi and the other young monks, when they left the church to start a revolutionary organization, they were young and nobody would give them any credence. When they were beset with problems, when they would not know what the solution was, they would come back to the very same church from where they started the journey. There used to be a huge Bible in the shrine there. They would bring out that Bible, they would all sit in prayer and open any page and read from that page, and they would get the answer for their life's problems. Perhaps many of us can also adopt the procedure. The gospel is capable of solving many of our problems, starting from our very ordinary existential problems to the ultimate problem of life, even the problem of death, which seems to haunt majority of the mankind. I am sure by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna, those who have come to this moment would certainly feel the power of His grace.